All right, everyone, we are back with another edition of the Wodify Insider Series, joined as always by my co-host Reagan. My name's Corey here at Wodify, but we are pleased to be joined today by Christi Novak, who is the affiliate business coordinator for Mayhem. Did I say that right?
Mayhem affiliate business coordinator. Yep.
Mayhem affiliate business coordinator. I just got it in the wrong order there. See, but Christi, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Give folks a background of why we were excited to have Christi on today. Our team recently was down, or I should say up, I guess relative to where I'm in Texas, so New York's a bit up from me. But our team was up in Albany, New York for the CrossFit Games recently, where Christi gave a presentation. And the title of Christi's presentation was Coaching Competitive Athletes in an Affiliate. And it just really resonated, particularly with one of our longest tenured teammates. Shout out to John Walker, employee number one here at Wodify. He was raving about the presentation. He loved it, really resonated with him and with other members of our team who saw it. So we thought it would be great to get you on here and kind of give us the gist of that presentation. And hopefully a lot of affiliate owners and coaches could learn quite a lot from it. So before we do that though, Christi, I must say we typically skip over the tell us about yourself portion, but I think you have a very interesting job. And I think a lot of people out there who work in the CrossFit space would be really intrigued to hear how you got it. So what's the story of you coming together with Mayhem?
So a little background on me. I owned and ran my own affiliate, CrossFit Right. It was Routine is the Enemy, so RITE, in Pennsylvania. And I ran that business for 7 years. It was highly successful. We ended up opening a second location. It was great. But then I made the life choice to transition over to the next stage of my life. And I thought, if I can't run a gym anymore, what would be the absolute most amazing thing I could do with my life and my skill set? So I applied for, in my opinion, the best company in the world, CrossFit Mayhem. And yeah, there wasn't even a job posted. I just reached out and sold myself, pitched myself, and a month of interviews later, I was hired, and true dream come true. The nice part about it is that so the team is used to running programming at Mayhem, which is the most beautiful gym you can ever imagine. But I bring kind of that real world, real affiliate setting background to it. So it's really helped us to kind of pull in, like, many gyms won't have the ability to, for say, do lunges at the same time as rope climbs, just for example, and kind of pulling those pieces out and trying to make it more real world accessible. So it's really been a great help.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes programming, putting puzzle pieces together, right? It's like, we have this space, this is being occupied. Can we still do this here? So I think that skill set's really valuable. What was the first thing you did for Mayhem? Did you step right into the role you're in now?
Right into this. And after I joined, I really just helped it grow and blossom. And then it became more of what it is now. So I offer business support for all of our gyms. They can ask me questions because, I've been there. I've owned a gym. But I can also help answer questions on the programming and everything in between, just issues with their community, which is kind of how this topic stemmed, and just everything they're going through. I've been there. And the other lovely thing is that we have over 1,700 gyms following us. So if I don't have answers, or if they just want a general feel from their peers, they can also unite through our Facebook group with other gym owners. So it's really great how it all comes together.
Love that. And Christi, what is actually, before I do that, where in Pennsylvania?
I'm about half hour away from Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. So you're in the other side. I'm from Scranton, so I had to ask. Yeah. But very much the opposite side. You guys are like essentially a different state out near Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's really far. It's surprising how squished and stretched out Pennsylvania can be when you're driving from east to west. It could be like a 6-hour drive from one side to the other. But let's dive into the topic of your presentation. Let me ask you this. Tell me about how you guys discovered this was something that needed to be addressed. I imagine that you came to this idea and created this presentation because at some point it wasn't going particularly well in the idea of balancing your competitor programming with your general population type of programming. What was sort of the origin of discovering this was something that needed to be optimized for you guys?
So, for me personally, I've dealt with it at my gym that I used to own. And then we visit a lot of gyms between all of us on affiliate tours. And I get a lot of also feedback from our gyms. And that's really where it came from. We've started to see a huge request for, since I've joined, adding competitive level programming to
Hmm.
our affiliate tracks because people are experiencing more and more competitive athletes at their gyms. And they're not necessarily games athletes or anything like that. They might just be competing in local comps. They might just be just wanting to advance to the next level in the open. It's just people who want more custom programming, more advanced programming above and beyond the regular class offering. But we've all been to gyms, maybe not you, Corey, but most of us who follow CrossFit have been to gyms where like the competitive athletes are following their own programming in the corner and they're all like curled up like in their own little world, not part of the community, not part of the class. And it really causes a division. So you'll see issues of normal members are like, hey, why do they get to do that over there? And they're upset. And then they're like, hey, I want to use the bikes, but class is going on and they're using the bikes. Why can't I get that bike?
Mm-hmm.
And then a coach is trying to lead class and they're doing sled pushes and causing chaos. So then the members, regular members, are getting upset with the competitive athletes and vice versa. And there's this division. The answer is let's help everyone in a class setting at their own level and unite the community as one. And at Mayhem, we have our competitive athletes and they take regular classes occasionally. You can go to class and literally Rich can be working out next to you on a given day. That would not be crazy at all. And he's getting a great workout next to your grandma's, whatever, you know. And that's the beauty of CrossFit is that you can find ways to unite everyone together at once. So that's kind of where it stemmed from. That was a really long answer, but just trying to unite the two together. With our programming, we also purposely try to unite our Mayhem affiliate programming with the workout portion of our Mayhem compete programming, if you're
Mm.
familiar with the two,
Mm-hmm.
because at least a
Yeah.
few times a week, because we really want to incorporate the communities together. We're trying to do it every way we can. Big answer for a short
That's
question.
because it's a good answer. And I think the other side of it is some affiliate owners may feel like they have to kind of like squash the more competitive driven athletes in their gym in order to prioritize their general class. Because like let's face it, it's probably your majority is just people wanting to go and get a good
Mhm.
workout in. And then your smaller 1% or 0.1% is people who, do have more competitive goals. So it's really cool that you guys have figured out a way to strike that balance, and you couldn't have the more perfect testing ground for it as well. So if you
Yeah.
guys can do it, I'm sure anybody can.
Yeah. The big battle is over catering to competitive athletes or shunning them away. And you don't have to do either. You can find balance.
And Chrissy, just logistically, I'd imagine that most affiliates that we speak to, they have sort of a competitor offering, but it's very separated to your point. So they might have like a competitor class once or twice a week. Is that sort of mechanically one of the first things they could do to better integrate this idea is to not have a dedicated competitor class, but just to actually be able to integrate both tracks of programming into a single class? Is that a pretty good first step for your average affiliate owner?
I would actually say that most gyms don't have a specific competitor class, and it's that the competitors are balled off to the side following their own programming and not part of the
Interesting.
community. That's more the
Okay.
norm. And that's literally what we're trying to help undo. So, our programming, for instance, every single workout in Mayhem affiliate, we have your RX tier for your standard, like this is what's prescribed for the day. We have two different tiers underneath, one for completely new athletes and then one for athletes in the middle. But beyond that, we also have an RX plus tier. So this is what we'd like your competitive athletes to do for the workout today, and it'll be part of class. So every single workout in Mayhem affiliate has that. And we're just really trying to pull those competitive athletes out of their hole and join them into the community. Because the thing is, yeah, they might be the best in the room, but if you scale them correctly, they're going to finish at the same target times, same goals, same stimulus as everybody else and get the same experience, but they're actually going to get better because they're going to be pushed now. You might be doing muscle ups and I might be doing pull ups, but we're getting the same level of intensity and drive. And I'm going to still try to stay ahead of you. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever found it hard personally to kind of balance wanting to help the competitors versus sort of like protecting that class culture? Like how do you strike that balance of achieving both of those ends?
So if I have a competitive athlete in class, the real secret is to communicate in advance. So I'm going to say to them, hey, I know this means a whole lot to you and that you really
Mm-hmm.
want to excel. I'm going to know what they're striving for. Is it the open? Do they have a competition coming up, etc.? And I'm going to give them little changes to help them really excel. And we can talk about how I would do that, how I'd modify the strength, skill, all of that. But the secret is to give them expectations in advance, such as I'm going to give you these tweaks. I'm going to talk to you about them before class, not during class. Because the last thing you want to do is do your whiteboard brief to everyone. And then you go over to this fancy person over here and talk to them for 10 minutes about what you want them to do because they got a competition in a month. And then your class feels slighted and not included. So I talked to them in advance. I could have their own app for them. I could text them. I could have it within the programming like we do for Mayhem Affiliate. But however I'd want to do that. And then I would be real clear with them. I'm going to give you these tweaks, but I'm going to coach you just like everybody else. I might hold you to a higher standard. My cues for you might be more like, I want to see you transition better in the workout between the row to the pull up bar. Whereas my regular athletes, I'd be cueing on their form in the pull ups. So they'll get little different, better coaching cues within the workout, but the same
Mm-hmm.
number of cues as everybody else. Does that kind of make sense?
It does, absolutely. And do you also handle that in your onboarding process? When you know someone is coming in and they are a competitor, or maybe they aspire to be a competitor, is that something that you'll kind of brief them on during the onboarding process, or do they kind of have to earn their way to be viewed as such in the community?
So, whenever somebody joins, I think that no matter what your gym is, it's important to know their history and what their goals are. It could be a brand new person who has a goal of getting their first strict pull up. Great. I'm going to help them with that and give them cues on that and side homework on that and care about that goal. Just the same way as I would of hearing that, oh, you're a competitor and you're trying really hard to qualify for a comp or whatever it might be. So I treat them kind of the same, but different as per their level.
I got you.
Yeah,
And
it's funny. It's like
yeah,
it's
right.
all the same. Whether you're a
Mhm.
beginner or you're advanced, just one is a little bit more intimidating sometimes to coaches where they're not quite sure how to handle the competitor. They're more comfortable scaling people down from the RX
Mhm.
prescribed version of the workout and less comfortable making adjustments to scale up for people so that they can be in that regular class setting. But generally, you need to understand everybody in your class's goals and because that's going to change how they approach a specific workout. And the more you understand that, the better you're going to be able to, tailor things specifically to them. So it's funny because it feels so complicated as a coach. Like
Really not.
especially if somebody who's competitive is more advanced than you even are in your athletic
Mhm.
capabilities. I think that's where people can really start to get a little bit more insecure, uncomfortable, but it's scaling, relative to the individual in front of you.
I often give talks on retention for gym owners and try to help them with that. And the real secret to retention is basically care about each individual member and what their goals and hopes and dreams are and help them get there. And it's the same as this. Like, it doesn't matter how much of a beginner you are, how advanced you are. It's just care and you'll build your community.
And I would say, Christy, I'm curious just how this parlays kind of because we work with some other types of businesses as well here at Wodify, namely a lot of martial arts gyms, and they have sort of a similar but different, but in the essence is kind of similar in that there's a big competitor culture, say in jujitsu.
Mhm.
And one piece of feedback sometimes we'll hear from gym owners in that world is competitors can have very strong personalities.
Mhm.
They can maybe be unintentionally intimidating, or maybe also want to chime in and become a coach themselves sometimes and kind of break that dynamic. Whereas you're the coach, you're supposed to be the one, but they're kind of interjecting a little bit where perhaps you wish that they wouldn't. How do you manage that? How do you make it less, is there a protocol that you follow? Is there a briefing that you give during that onboarding process? How do you prevent that sort of strong personality takeover from some of your more known competitors?
When I, it's just funny because now you're making me like think of people.
Yeah.
whenever I, whenever I have an athlete that I
Everyone just
know,
thought of someone.
I know. Whenever I have an athlete that I know really wants to have above and beyond the regular class setting, they're looking for those more advanced types of programming, along with kind of what I mentioned about talking to them in advance, setting up like the guidelines and roles. I'm going to kind of explain to them, like, yeah, I love having you in classes and you're a great addition. You're a great, example of what people can be here. But I try to make it clear that when they're in class, they are an athlete, they are not a coach. And if I find it being a problem, little fun little switcheroo is to just move the class along. And what I mean by that is if Corey, you're acting like you're Reagan's coach, I'm going to now in my warm up or skill piece or whatever I'm doing, just separate you two and be like, okay, now we're going to break into two sides. I want this group to do this and this group to do that. And I've split you up. It's like a fun way to just kind of get people to shift around whenever that tends to be happening. But more so than that, it's just kind of setting the guidelines, but doing it in a nice but effective way of like, you are great, but you are a great athlete. And we take our coaching very seriously. And we'd like to leave that to the coaches. You also kind of often find that the competitive athletes naturally get skills like muscle ups way quicker than the not so natural athletes. And they can't relate to the inability to be able to do things. And
Right.
I can point that out as a way of like, you're not a coach. You're great at it, but you lack the ability to kind of feel the mechanics involved in getting there because you were so good at getting there yourself. And it's kind of like a good way to like beef them up
Mm-hmm.
without just saying, don't do that. Like, you were great.
A random aside, but I was a coach for a long time, not in a CrossFit context, but I worked mostly with like Gen Pop folks in like a commercial gym setting. But
Mm-hmm.
we had a name for the people who, because some, to your point, some athletes or clients, you can just kind of be like, do this, and they'll
Yeah.
do exactly that. And
Mm-hmm.
then other clients, you have to create this manga of cues. We're like, okay, do this, do that,
Uh-huh.
do this, do that, and kind of create this order of operations for them. And we lovingly call those people the motor morons. That's what we used to call them in my gym, the motor morons, the folks who are just like, I could lay it out for you, I could show it to you, and it just isn't going to click immediately. So
Gym
I
owners,
hear you
don't
on
call
that.
them that.
Behind closed
Yeah, don't
doors.
call them that. But if
Don't
you've
call them
been a
that. I'm
motor
part of
moron yourself, you might be a really good coach.
Right, right. Hey,
life.
Bill Belichick was a backup nose guard in college, and then look what he went beyond. So
Yep.
those who can't do coach sometimes, I know I was certainly fall in that category. But Christy, speaking of coaches, in the presentation later on in it, you mentioned the difference between being a technician coach and a translator coach. What exactly is that? Well, what's the difference between those two things? And are they an example of, when one is more relevant to the other? Are they, or is everyone both and they have to pick and choose when they kind of bring that card out? Or do you find that people gravitate towards one sort of philosophy or the other from the jump?
So, what I meant by that was coaching more about if you have competitive athletes, coaching more their technique versus their more advanced skills. So, such as, let's say you're a competitive athlete and you have perfect form in muscle ups and snatches. I'm going to coach you and keep it just a little more advanced, and I'm going to help you with transitioning between stations. You're not going to take chop breaks. You're not going to get a drink. You're not going to take 5 breaths. I want to transition you between pieces. And then it can be even more so advanced, such as in a partner workout. If you and I are partners, and let's say there's a row, your normal, regular people will take 10 seconds for you and I to switch places. in the rower, because they're going to undo their little row clips. They're going to get their feet out. They're going to stand up. Then the other one's going to sit down and they're going to tighten both straps. And then they're going to grab the thing and then they're going to set the shoulders. If you and I are competitive athletes, I want to see that transition take 3 seconds. So I'm going to talk to us as a team about how to set the foot settings, the foot straps, so that they can easily accommodate both of us and we can just get our foot in and out without worrying about it. I'm going to talk about, could we perhaps pass the wand of the rower off as we sit down? Just little things like that to help us transition faster on that piece. My regular members, I'm not going to worry about transitioning whenever they got a rounded back and they're bringing the seat of the rower all the way up to their heels and hitting it off, and they're not driving with their legs. And do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, as you get better and more competitive of an athlete, I'm going to look at ways to make your result more competitively improved, as opposed to just focusing on the technique of each movement.
Right. It's at that point, it is really just about, improving those competitive times and getting better at the specific sport. And as opposed to being like, let me build you from the ground up and educate you on movement patterns and things like that.
We're going to talk about other things like pacing and not going out too hot, and potentially how we would break up the sets to be most efficient. And it's not, like I said, so much looking at your exact form, but how can we achieve the best we can in this workout?
Right. And you also mentioned partner workouts. I'm curious, when you guys do partner workouts, are you mindful do you intentionally kind of pair the competitors with the non-competitors sometimes just to maybe push that member, or do you try to keep the competitors with the competitors and non-competitors with the competitors in the context of a partner workout?
So I have been to gyms where the competitive athlete shows up and it's partner workout day, and like everyone is just scared to death of the competitor. And we don't want that, because then they're feeling like, I don't want to show up and take class. No one wants to be with me. And then the other people are scared to death of the competitor because they think a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio, they're going to die. But if you scale correctly, it doesn't matter who you're with. So if I'm going to partner up, if Corey, you're the competitive athlete in the room, I'm not going to care if Reagan has the exact same skills as you. But if I know that she will sell her soul to beat you in this workout, and I know that you think you're the best in the class, I'm going to pair you two up. And you might be doing muscle ups. She could be doing ring rows. She could be doing regular kipping pull ups. Like the movements and the weights could be different. But if I know that you two are going to really push each other to the extreme, you two are the perfect pair, regardless of which tier of the workout you're doing.
I love that. So it's really more about the intention behind them as opposed to the skill set that each might possess. Let's say I was a relatively new affiliate owner, and I'm interested in, because we all know how it is. We absolutely love coaching our Gen Pop folks, even as in the context I was working with people, which is more of like commercial setting. But you also really like working with competitors. It's fun to work with competitors. It's really enticing. It's you're kind of on the cutting edge, so to speak, of working with these people who are trying to really, set new standards in the sport. Is there a way, or obviously Mayhem goes back as far as as you possibly can, as in terms of the original, starting competitive, notable names in CrossFit. But if I'm that new affiliate owner and I'm interested in work with more competitors, are there any strategies that I could use to maybe attract them to my business? Is there anything from a marketing perspective you've seen work, or just, I don't know. I've always been curious about that from a CrossFit perspective as a non-CrossFitter, of how one gym becomes competitive and another might not be.
I mean, I think it's all in the way you include your competitive athletes. I think a lot of gyms have a competitive athlete try to join their gym and they find out that they hate the community and they leave. That happens so much more than you think. So then they're going to seek out different gyms in the area and find one that works best for them, which is what everybody should do, right? You don't want to go to a gym where you feel unwanted. So if I were to show up at a gym and I was told, oh, this is our workout of the day. You do this, or you go in the corner and work out alone. I'm not going to stay there. So I think it's not so much how you market it to competitors, but it's how you treat competitors when they show up. So if you have different advanced options and I show up at your gym and you're basically catering to me saying, hey, every single class, I'm going to give you a workout option that you can do that'll really help you excel. Man, I love that. That is sick. I'm definitely joining this gym. And because I'm a competitive athlete, I probably have some friends who are competitive athletes as well. So I'm going to tell my friends, guys, I found this new gym and it's amazing. They have different workout options, different strength options, different gymnastic options. I'm getting in the best shape of my life. This is amazing. And then what happens? Their friends join and then they tell their friends. And you kind of see it like if you have multiple gyms in your town, you know where the competitive athletes are. And that's why. It's because they've created a culture where it works. And then they've told their friends, and then they all kind of shift over. So, not so much advertising, but having the pieces in place that make competitive athletes want to come to your gym.
Have you found in your experience that a lot of coaches or gym owners deal with a little bit of imposter syndrome when they're trying to coach athletes? Perhaps they weren't a competitor themselves, so they feel like they're less qualified, I suppose, to also coach competitors. Is that something you come across?
I can definitely see that. When I first started owning my gym and coaching, I couldn't do a muscle up yet. I couldn't do a variety of skills, and I would get people coming in who obviously were better than me. I think the real secret is in learning. So I've coached, I've coached Rich quite a few times, and a bunch of people at Mayhem. And I've coached in my own personal gym, somebody who was on the Pittsburgh Steelers, for instance. That was fun. But it doesn't matter who comes in the door if you have an understanding of the skills and the movements. So when I first started coaching, I would watch every single reputable video that I could to try to learn from coaches how to coach the actual movement. So I wasn't necessarily watching the movement, but I was seeing how Sage Bergner was leading a snatch workout because she's the best in the business. I was looking at how Hinshaw was leading a warm up. These are just examples. And now in Mayhem Affiliate, we've done that for you. So Darren, at the start of every single class in the coach notes, explains how he would do the whiteboard briefing, for instance, and there are demo videos in there and all kind of things for you to look at. So when you're coaching our classes, you literally have a blueprint of what to say, and then you can add your own flair to it. But my advice with imposter syndrome is just get as much knowledge as you can. And it's kind of like they say, fake it till you make it, but you're not faking it. You just think you're faking it because you're feeling like an imposter. But the more knowledge you have, you're not.
How did you overcome it was that how you overcame it in your context? When you said when you first started, you're like, oh man, I'm not doing a muscle up yet, and these folks are. Is that something that you just immersed yourself in the content, you immersed yourself in the educational pieces, and eventually got to the point where it just sort of went away as you knew that you had the qualifications to do this?
So I was taking certifications and such for all the different pieces, but more than that, the night before every class, I would know what the programming is tomorrow, and I would watch those videos and study how to best coach the movement. And if it was a piece like a muscle up that I couldn't personally do, I would go through the cues and everything and the skills on the like on the low rings and such because I could do that. And then I would go to explain the other piece. And if I had that competitive athlete, I would say, look at this piece in this video here. And I would have it right there on an iPad or something and say, this is what I'm talking about here. And you can still spot movement without being able to do the movement. Some of the best coaches aren't good at the actual thing they coach. I mean, if you have an eye for spotting flaws and correcting, you in no way need to be able to do it. You just need to have confidence in it. And I think it comes with time, honestly. Like, I'm more of a leader, so it came to me pretty easily, but you just need to trust in your knowledge.
Shout out to Wodify's Kiosk Plus, where they can see those videos up on the big screen. Shameless plug here. That would be a nice thing to do, exactly what Christi is recommending in this context for the gym owners
Yep,
out there.
for sure, 100%.
In addition to that, what I was really kind of intrigued to hear too is just Mayhem is so known for the variety of programming that you guys offer as well. You have a number of different tracks, and I mean, there's a, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a bodybuilding track, there's a police and fire track, there's the life track, there's there's a large quantity of programming. How did you guys build that out? Because I imagine when you first started, it was probably very specific, maybe affiliate based programming. Were these all added just based on requests for the community? Or is these things that as you grew your team internally, you realized you guys had this expertise and why not put it out there to the community? How did that grow?
So, one of our biggest classes at Mayhem in Cookeville is our life track. So, that is a class that's designed for older athletes, and it's kind of like a less intense version of CrossFit with more real life movements, such as we're going to lift things, we're going to carry things, we're going to push things for aging athletes. So, because that class went so well at Mayhem, we of course wanted to deliver that to our gyms. Obviously, our main affiliate track was like that. We grab our kids, preteens, and teens from over there. Most of our tracks stem from what we are doing and what is working really well at Mayhem HQ in Cookeville, Tennessee. Now, on top of that, as you're aware, we offer our online individual athlete programming.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've pulled some of those tracks from there just out of demand. We'll offer our bodybuilding track. It's something that you can give to your members to do on the side, an open gym or something if they want to. There's a running track that we pulled from Aerobic Capacity, and that can be nice if you just want to offer a run club to your gym. You're not going to coach that one. You're going to give like feedback and talk to them before and after, maybe some running drills, but that's kind of like an on your own one. So it's just kind of giving different offerings on how you can make your community improve. But most of our tracks stemmed right from what's working really well for us in Mayhem in Cookeville.
The bodybuilding track caught my eye. That is my lane. I'm very non-functional, Christi. I'm sort of the opposite. I think, and if anything, I desire to be less functional. I want to be so muscle bound that I just do not have any range of motion, just kind of waddling around, having trouble fitting through doors. That sounds great.
You have goals.
Ignore him. My goal in this podcast we do together is to wear him down to CrossFit one episode at a time. We'll have him full range of motion squatting.
I think you know who I side with.
Well, let me ask you this, Christi. Just humor me here. As a washed up meathead, which I will describe that as my apt title here. What do you think is the 80-20 from CrossFit programming that someone like me would benefit from? I know this is a little bit more general, but just humor me here. What would be a really good way to ease myself in? Like, is there a particular track of programming? Is there is there maybe a prescription for how many times a week, and then to kind of ascend from there? How would you take somebody who's like, I don't know if I'll ever totally commit to it because I just love my bodybuilding too much. I love throwing the headphones on and just going to war with myself. But that being said, if I was looking for that sort of alternative programming style 1 or 2 days a week, what might be a good way to integrate that? And are there maybe some movements I should focus on?
So first, I would suggest to you to find a local Mayhem affiliate gym in your area. There is
Austin,
a
Texas,
line where you could find one.
Very
but
good.
Beyond that, so our Mayhem affiliate programming, we offer nearly every day is a strength or skill piece followed by a Metcon. So you might find that once a week you're still benching, once a week you're still squatting in a given week. I mean, weeks will switch. You might see a deadlift. So I think that you would like that aspect of it. And then some days actually have mini functional bodybuilding pump sessions instead of that strength piece, which you would really love. Like, you would love it. So I think for you, I would try to get you in. You'd have to go through you said you've CrossFit before, so you might need our on-ramp class. You might
once or twice.
Yeah. But I think you would find that you'd like it more than you think right now you would like it. So I'd start you with probably 3 days a week just to get a feel for it. And then we'd kind of just talk about how you're feeling about it. But if you were trying to mesh the two, I would obviously talk to you about like, hey, if we're benching tomorrow in the gym, don't do benching in your bodybuilding today. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just
Right.
kind of just general understanding of how to balance the two.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm stepping outside of my wheelhouse here. But one thing I think that CrossFit would be good for anyone to benefit from is that it's kind of hard to develop anaerobic capacity. It's just a little bit more challenging. Like anybody can go out for a run or a jog and develop their aerobic capacity, but anaerobic is just a little bit more difficult to program for. So I think that would be, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be a real sort of unique stimulus for somebody like me, because it's probably it's not getting done right now in the context of bodybuilding. And then, maybe some cardio. I like to do my elliptical a couple times a week, but is it fair to say that would be probably like the most novel stimuli for somebody like me?
Yeah, you'd find yourself doing intervals and things like that, and your world would just be rocked. Like, you can, in fact, get your heart rate up higher than it's probably ever been, and then have a quick recovery and be right back to it. You can work that power output on the bike in quick sets and such. And I think you would find that, like, I remember the first time I did CrossFit, for instance. It was my first time. I had just run a marathon like 2 weeks before, and I did pretty well at it. So I'm recovered from my marathon and I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And then I went into this class that just mopped the floor with me. Like there were like box jumps that looked terrifying. There was push press. There was all these things, and they taught me how to do them, and I did them really light and really scaled. And I just mopped the floor with me, and I was hooked for the rest of my life. So I think just you can see that the other side of fitness, if you haven't experienced it, just opens a whole new realm to your life. And I think that it can be a welcome change.
I will take that under consideration. I will take it under consideration. But I'm curious, Christy, how did you initially find CrossFit? What was your foray into it? Was it just on a whim? You're like, I'm going to try this class. What it sounds like maybe you were clearly active already if you were running marathons. Were you a runner who was trying to diversify a little bit?
So I was a runner and doing boot camps at the local YMCA and trying to find my niche because I wanted something more. And ironically, CrossFit wasn't around in my town then. And somebody it was a trainer at the YMCA, started a fitness class in their garage. And it couldn't be called CrossFit because you can't call it CrossFit if it's not CrossFit.
Right.
So no one really knew what we were doing. This was before it became an affiliate. We didn't know what we signed up for. We didn't know what was happening. And we were hooked though. And it just kind of went from there. And then gradually they got big enough that they got a real gym and it became CrossFit. But it was like this secret garage early morning thing. And it was actually really fun.
That's a very OG CrossFit story. Yeah. I don't know if it gets any more such. So that's good.
I remember when they started teaching us snatches, they didn't call it a snatch. It was just during the warm up. The first week we just practiced like a dip drive. And she was like, it's becoming something. And we were like, okay. And then the next week it was dip drive high pull. And she's like, it's becoming something. And we're like, okay. And then the next week it saw it through. And we were like, oh, this is a thing? Okay. And then one more quick one. The first time one of the coaches flipped upside down and showed a handstand push-up, we were all just speechless. Like, what? What? It's like the wildest thing ever.
They like Karate Kid you. They're like being tricked into CrossFit.
Is this human? What's happening?
I also like that you couldn't call it CrossFit, but you also couldn't call the exercises what they were either. It was all a secret.
We didn't know what we were doing, but we were in. Good times.
Love it. Love it. I'll challenge anybody out there. This is the one thing about CrossFit as Reagan endeavors to get me to try it. I don't think there's a coach alive who can get my Olympic lifts looking good. I don't think that exists. That is my challenge to anybody out there. It is a horror show watching me try to do an overhead squat. It is a disaster.
Introduce you to Sage, and she will be up for the challenge.
Challenge accepted. That truly, I don't know what type of award she should win if she does that, but there is some award that exists she should receive Because that
No,
is
no,
a feat.
honestly, like if you came into a gym with me, I could fix you, and so could such another handful of gym owners and coaches for sure.
Yeah.
It's just small changes. You don't want to look at you and be like, your feet are wrong, your hands are wrong, the bar is getting too far out here, your your hands are too close, so it's not coming back, and you're not using your power, and you're bending your arms to your brain will explode. So I would work with you and just fix like one or two little things per session. And then in a month, you would look beautiful, Corey.
Yeah, Corey, the hard thing is your patience to stick through learning. It's not the coach's ability. It's really, I mean, most good coaches can teach anyone to move well. It's just
100%.
the amount of time the person is willing to commit to learning. It's the coolest thing about CrossFit is it teaches you to
Exactly.
do all these cool things that you think, Christy saw somebody flip upside down into a handstand as an adult and she's like, "What are you doing?" It lets you like move like a kid again as an adult, but you have to be, willing to take the time.
I remember like a year into CrossFit, I have kids and they're just randomly at like a family picnic became a kickball game, right? And I hadn't played kickball in 20 years. Like who plays kickball? And I got Grand Slam or whatever like every time. And it was like weird skills. I can suddenly do things. And then later, like a month later, my son slipped and like a ninja I went Wah! And like caught him on the side before he hit the ground. And it was like, how'd I do that? You slowly get good at so many different things. Like the snatch, you think, when in my life do I need to use power input and go here? But like learning how to use power from your hips is just a profound thing that applies to so many things in your life. And using your hip drive to pull something off the ground. It's really neat. You just find yourself suddenly a superhero at everything. I love it. I could talk all day.
Also,
Me
shout out
too.
Hip Drive. Shout out Mark Ripito. 2 episodes in a row. He came up in our last episode with Jason Ackerman. So this is 2
Yeah.
episodes in a row. I got to talk about Mark Ripito, who I used to do an impression of, Christy. I will not do it
Yeah.
here, but I used to. It was pretty good.
Good to
Corey, you keep
know.
bringing that up. I
Secret
feel like you
skill.
just really want to show everybody your impression. Should we just
One
get
of
it
the, one
out
of
of
the
the
Like I
way
ways.
said,
so it doesn't
I
keep
feel
coming
like
up?
I feel like Corey goes to the bar with like his bar tricks and no one knows what he's talking about because it's the wrong venue.
I know.
I don't know. I might get into trouble if I go into a bar and start talking about Hip Drive. That's not a good context for that. So
Maybe not a good idea.
this is a PG show. This is a PG show.
Now that my Wi-Fi is back, can we wrap up the competitor conversation a little bit with an example of how you would apply that in a class setting? I would love to just kind of bring it
Oh yeah,
all
yeah.
together.
Of course. We're over the bar talk. Got it. Yeah.
I'm pushing
So
Corey's impression out of the conversation.
So, so I'll real quick talk about the strength portion of class and the Metcon portion because I think that those pieces are easier to change. And then I really want to dive into how to accommodate the gymnastics pieces because I think that's where gym owners see the biggest issue. And I'll talk about that. But in the strength portion, your regular athletes, for example, could be doing 3x5 back squats at a certain percent. You could, for your competitive athletes, just give them a higher percentage. That's great. But another thing you could do is you could add a tempo. So they're doing the same reps, same percentage. You could add a pause at the bottom. So just different ways to give them slightly advanced, harder strength, but in a similar fashion. Makes sense? For the Metcon portion of class, actually we'll go to gymnastics next, and then I'll talk about the Metcon portion. So for gymnastics, if you, Reagan, have been to a class where sometimes you'll go in and they'll be like, okay, today we're going to spend 20 minutes learning how to climb the rope. First, we're going to talk about the different types of way to wrap your foot. You can do this way. You can do this way. Everybody give it a try. Your competitive athletes are snoozing in the corner, or they're all talking to each other, or they just left the whole situation and they're doing their own thing. So how can we include them in our class programming without losing them and making them part of the group? So you can, of course, give them a more advanced level of the gymnastics. So instead of rope climbs, they're going to work on legless rope climbs or L-sit rope climbs. If we're doing handstand walks, maybe your level ones are practicing kick-ups, your level twos are practicing actual handstand walks, maybe your level threes are working on obstacles. We're going to go up onto a plate and down. We're going to try to spin in a circle. So that's kind of how we do it. And we actually program levels into Mayhem affiliate programming, where we break into groups and you let each group know what they want to do. And your competitive athletes don't need as much of your coaching attention because they already know a great deal about it. And you can spend most of your coaching cues on the other two groups. So everybody has their own idea of what they need to work on, but it's the same general topic, but at their level. But then outside of all of that, another fun thing we do in our programming often is, instead of just advancing the level of difficulty, so instead of saying legless rope climbs instead of rope climbs, we'll add a conditioning piece. So let's say our skill piece is an 8-minute EMOM for regular members, involving like a core piece like sit-ups or V-ups or something, alternating minutes with 3 to 5 with 3 rope climbs. Let's say it's something like that. So we're going back and forth for 8 minutes. For my competitive athletes, I'm going to give them an 8-minute AMRAP. They're going to run 400 meters, do 1 rope climb. Run 400 meters, do 2 rope climbs. Run 400 meters, do 3 rope climbs, as high as they can get. And what are they doing? They're only working regular rope climbs, but now they're practicing rope climbs under fatigue. So it's different ways that you can learn to build volume in the gymnastic movements, but in a setting of a competition. So it's just like a different way. Everyone's still working for 8 minutes. Everyone's still working rope climbs, but they're doing it from that aspect. So it's kind of like a fun way to do it. And then for the actual Metcon, the biggest things are keeping the time domains and the target times and the stimulus the same. So if I have a piece that's, say, 5 rounds of 3 minutes of work followed by 2 minutes of rest, I want my compete athletes to also be doing that. We don't want them running around and you're like trying to tell them when they're resting. And then the regular athletes, we're trying to tell them, no, you're resting now. And then the compete athletes are going 5 minutes longer. That's a hot mess. Trying to modify the workout in ways that maintains the structure of the workout. So athletes are going to finish around the same amount of time. They're going to have the same stimulus, the same feel, but you can increase their weights. You can make their movements, say, squat snatches instead of power snatches. You can make it legless rope climbs instead of regular. But what you don't want to do is add elements that are going to cause chaos. So I don't want to say like, Corey, I want you to sled push through the middle of the room and then climb a rope while everybody else is trying to jump rope and you're ramming into them. Hot mess. So trying to pick different ways to elevate the workout for them that maintains the stimulus, the structure, but also minimizes chaos. That's the real secret.
Yeah, you got to like uphold the integrity of the class. You're not trying to run 2 classes in one class setting for 2 different groups of people. When we were first talking about this, like just the whole conversation around scaling up for competitors, I'm obviously, I don't consider myself competitive, but I have been doing this a long time. And I think this conversation's similar with that group of people where like, I'm not competitive. I'm not going out and doing local comps, but I coached for like 6 years. I've done CrossFit for 13 years. I don't need to watch you demonstrate how to do a rope climb for 15 minutes when that's my 1 hour of the day to work out. And so not leaving out those groups of people too, I think this conversation applies 100%. To them really well.
And that's what I mean. Like, competitive athletes aren't always who you think they are. They can just be somebody who wants a little bit above the standard of the class. And that's you.
Yeah. Please don't make me stand there for 10 minutes of my hour.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I will happily stand there for the 10 minutes.
You'll do some curls while I'm talking.
All of the instruction, do some curls. Yeah, now this sounds like a great class. You guys are really selling me. Well, Christi, we promised to keep you for about 45 minutes, and we are past that point, so we don't want to monopolize your whole day here. But thank you so much for being here. I think there's a lot that gym owners can take away from this. I think this is probably a common problem that a lot of people aren't aware that there's guidance available on.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're able to provide today. But is there anything you guys want to plug from whether or not you're going to be at any local events or anything coming up on this calendar, or even just some online resources you want to direct people to for Mayhem?
Coming up soon, we are attending Coaches Congress in London, which is pretty exciting. And then after that, Affiliate Con in Dallas, Texas.
We'll
So
see you
if
there.
you're attending either of those, please come say hello. We would love to meet you. And in general, we would love to see anyone try a free trial of Mayhem affiliate programming. You can sign up for your first 2 weeks are free. In Wodify, first month you can get free, which thank you, Wodify. And yeah, we would love to see you jump in and check everything out and work together. And thank you so much for having me. This has been truly wonderful.
Thank you for coming, Christi. Sorry I was MIA half the time with bad internet.
You were great.
But thanks so much, Christi. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in Affiliate Con.
All right. Thanks very much. Bye.
Take care.